And to me, that'll be one of the things I'll have to think about in any decisions we make, because we don't get paid enough to step out on a limb that'll be sawed off and cost us personally. We need to be able to not only listen to, but have confidence in our legal counsel. But I have felt comfortable, and that's, like I say, that's the factor that I'll be considering, along with how they can serve the system and its mission. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Any other comments, questions?
I've got a question. With the change of the structure between the two firms, I think that as far as our board is concerned, that it would be prudent for us to go to a one-year contract instead of a 2023 time frame, being that there's two different firms and we don't know how each firm will currently work. Is that an option?
I'd like to speak to that, Dr. Fitch.
All right.
Mr. Boykin, currently you have a 2-year retainer agreement with Schwartz & Shaw PLLC. As of November 1st, Mr. Schwartz will be available with whomever he hires. Moving forward, you all have to decide where your open files are going to be going, and then after that, there can be conversations about how you want to proceed and with whom, and at what rates, and what part of the packages you want to put together, and how you want to structure things. The obligation to move forward is yours, your choice, and that's why we're here to answer questions. We have ethical obligations to be responding to questions and not working to give you information unless you want it.
Ms. Barnes?
Considering that 9 of you all are going with the other firm, I need to know more about that firm, because I do not.
I'm so glad you asked. Pointer Spruill is a North Carolina firm. It has 4 offices, one in Rocky Mount, just 30 minutes away from here. It is full service, has lots of government clients, and they are having us come aboard to start their education law section. Eddie Spees is there. You may all know him from days in the Department of Justice, and he's excited to welcome us. We have all of the different areas that a school district needs covered with our existing staff, and then the benefit of their litigation team and others that are working in the firm. One of the things that's important for you to know is that that firm is going to honor your current hourly rate that you're paying with Schwartz & Shaw up until November 1st. You're paying $170 an hour, and you are billed in quarter-hour increments. Pointer Spruill only bills in tenth of an hour increments. So a 3-minute call would be $17 at Pointer Spruill and $42.50 at the current structure that you're in. It's important for you to know also that Pointer Spruill is dedicated, as I said, to local government clients. What that means is, you may have heard Pointer Spruill is high dollar. That's not the case for their local government clients, and they very much want to work within the public fisc that you all are responsible for. And it's one very important reason why we're going there, is to be able to have the flexibility with you all to meet your needs and the costs that you can sustain.
So you all are forming his educational leg.
Correct. The
Does he already-
education law section is going to sit within their litigation section right now, but we're part of their government team, their local government team. So municipalities hire Pointer Spruill, school boards will hire Pointer Spruill, and all the school system needs will be met now at Pointer Spruill for those who are clients.
As you're building, Mr. Schwartz, if 9 people are leaving Schwartz Shaw, and you do have some, is there any staff carryover for you, or is it a total rebuild for you?
It's, none of the attorneys are staying.
Okay,
Some staff are staying.
okay.
One other important thing is that the firm within a firm idea is what Pointer Spruill embraces, so that you all will have the lawyers who are familiar to you doing your work. That's one question that typically comes up.
So are you saying that, whichever way we go, we'll end up having to rewrite a new contract
Yeah.
with?
And
So, in layman's terms here right now, October the 31st, if we had, suppose we decide to interview different firms, on November the 1st, and we haven't made a decision, are we attorneyless?
You have to
No.
make a choice.
It-
You have to make a choice.
If you don't make a choice, it continues with the existing entity, which
The
is,
existing entity is not the
BOC.
same
So,
as
but
BOE.
at no, we don't have to do any extension or anything on November the 1st. If we haven't, you say we have to make a choice and we have to have it all completely done by October 31st?
You need to decide where your open files are going for right now, and then after that, you can determine what firm or what attorney you want to handle your matters moving forward. Right now, the open cases, you all have to decide on who will handle them. And as of November 1st, only Richard Schwartz will be at Richard Schwartz and Shaw, but Shaw will not be there, nor the other 8 of us who are leaving.
well, I don't know that that's the case. I'm working on adding attorneys.
Other attorneys, yes. The attorneys who exist there now will not be there, except for Richard Schwartz.
Your retainers with Shorts and Shaw for the remainder of the year, and that's who we'll continue on with unless you make a change.
Okay, but in other words, my fear was that, wait a minute, we,
We won't
Yeah.
have any.
that's why you have to have 2 months when you quit. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I said the same thing, yeah.
Mr. Schwartz, are you retaining any of your paralegals? Or do you have any?
Jenny is a paralegal and administrator, and she's going to be doing paralegal work, yes.
And she's been with your company for how long?
28 years, I think.
Mrs. Powell, do you have any, I see you're out of the car. Glad you landed safely. Do you have any questions? She did have a question, and it was, is Pointer Spruill in Rocky Mount? And the answer is yes, along with 3 other locations. What are the choices of law firms? And that's what we were just discussing, that we could either stay where we are, where Mr. Schwartz is the attorney of record, or we can move the open files to Pointer Spruill or somewhere else. And that's kind of what we're going to be voting on, since you asked what are we voting on particularly. So we are in that discussion. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm sorry, between the transitioning from car to inside, I heard there was a question about what attorneys are going to remain with Schwartz and what attorneys will go with Pointer, and I failed to get all the names. Can that be repeated?
Yes.
it's easier just to go the other way.
It's everybody that's an attorney with Schwartz and Shaw currently is leaving. So currently, what will be at Schwartz and Shaw is Mr. Schwartz, and new attorneys that he hires in the process of replacing those who are leaving.
Oh, okay,
Some of
so that
whom-
means
some of whom-
everyone who's going to, oh, I'm sorry.
Some of whom already have some education law experience, others who do not, but will be working to gain that experience.
Okay.
So all of the attorneys that we currently know that have handled our issues will be leaving Schwartz and Shaw. And if you can see your screen, Mrs. Horrison has now shared with you a document that we all received that is indicating who is going on November the 1st, beginning with Brian Shaw, Rachel Hitch, Brandon McPherson, Katie Cornetta, Rebecca Williams, Rachel Nichols, Grace Sykes Pinneret, Amy Clay, and Laura Crumpler.
Okay, And how long do we have before we can make a final decision? Is it something we need to do today, or do we have a time period that we can make it within?
Well, I think that the thought was, since the change is occurring on November 1, they are looking at some type of resolution, hopefully today, but if not today, at the October meeting, which is October the 18th, upcoming. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. I hear one yes, that I'm correct in the statement I just made to you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Mrs. Barnes?
How long has Pointer School been in law business?
So Pointer Spruill started in 1986, but prior to that, it was a merging of two law firms, one that predates the 1900s and one that started out in the 1930s. So Pointer and Spruill came together in 1986, but they've been practicing law much longer. And the law firm has 90 attorneys over the 4 different offices: Raleigh, Charlotte, Southern Pines, and Rocky Mount.
Which is where they started.
Yes. They started.
Were you able to hear Mrs. Cornetta, Mrs. Powell?
No, I missed the first part of that, I'm
You
sorry.
you need the microphone.
Okay, so, Ms. Powell, can you hear me? This is Katie Cornetto.
Yes,
So the question is, Pointer and Spruill has been practicing law as Pointer Spruill since 1986, but Pointer predates the 1900s and joined Spruill in 1986. But the law firm currently has 90 attorneys over 4 offices, one in Rocky Mount where they started, Raleigh, Charlotte, and Southern Pines.
Okay? Did you?
and, are there any other schools that this law firm serves, or school systems?
So what we start, oh, go ahead.
This group that's joining, that's leaving Schwartz and Shaw, will be forming the educational law segment. They have handled municipalities as well as other governmental entities and private clients, but they have not had an educational component, so they are now starting the educational component.
Okay,
And just to clarify, Ms. Powell, I don't know if you can hear me, this is Katie. The law firm Pointer Spruill has done education-related matters in addition to representing the State Board of Education in 2 constitutional law matters. So they do have familiarity with state agencies and local government, and they make it a priority to serve them as their other clients.
okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions directly to Mr. Schwartz or Ms. Cornetta at this point? Can I ask Mr. Schwartz and Ms. Cornetto if you all will step out of the room for a little bit?
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
Mhm.
No, we're not. Oh, we are.
Yeah, still public meeting.
Closed as well?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
We're back open.
we're back open. Okay. Mr. Breen, you asked for the legal counsel to step aside, I guess, for a conversation to be had. So talk to us, please.
More than anything, it was of a matter of politeness. You know, when you see a severance of a firm this severe, I mean, I think typically one person is the issue
Just a second, just
and the
say-
other folks.
Did you say you can't hear?
I can hear that noise is annoying, it's a clicking something.
I'm not
It's
making it.
No, it's,
Okay. I think it's ambient noise from Ms. Powell's end. I think when you have a situation like this one, I think the reason for the severance is clear. And I'll say that I think in this time, even though it is a new section at Pointer Sproul, they've been together for the last 35 years. They've been in existence for, one of them at least 100 years. But more than anything, I think we need to follow the talent. And respectfully, I think that Katie Cornetta, Rachel Hitch, Brandon McPherson, I think that's the talent. And they're familiar with us. They've done well for us. And I think that's where we need to aim. And I say this, and I say, we should go with Pointer Sproul, and I say it to my own detriment. I've got existing cases right now that I'm going to have a conflict in, which means that I'm going to have to refund some money and get out of those cases, because I don't think that we can be employers of a firm and me be opposing counsel in a suit, because I think that gives rise to an appearance of impropriety. But I say that to say, we talked about wanting to get the Cadillac of firms, and this is about as close to a Cadillac as we're going to get. And one of my biggest critiques has always been wanting to get someone more local to us to represent us. And Pointer Sproul is right down the road. The person who's going to be the head of that section in their structural paradigm is Nick Ellis. And Nick Ellis is from here. His wife, Susan Ellis, has a small practice on Nash Street. They graduated a son from here. They're familiar with us. And I know that in the interim and, local to Wilson, I'm not sure that we're going to find a better fit for us and a more talented group of individuals than what Pointer and Sproul is going to be able to roll out for us.
Okay. Well, as much as I respect and like Mr. Schwartz, I don't feel he's able to handle everything that would be thrown at him at this point. Even though there is the hiring of new staff, and he said that some have an education background. We don't know what the other is going to be and if they would be up to speed. It helped that Mrs. Cornetta said that Pointer Sproul is willing to honor terms already negotiated and that we already have, which means that it's not going to be a major change in dollar amount. And I think that going with the talent that we know, Ms. Hitch has been very helpful to us. She has been very capable in handling a lot of the EC issues that we have had. The others have done well by us, and I think that the following of the talent, or rolling with the talent as it moves, is a reasonable suggestion to make. And I don't know what transpired, not interested in what transpired. It is what it is, and the changes occur, and we are now in this situation. I would ask for a better cleanup of the open cases, as I indicated before, just so that we know what's what and where's where, and to move forward from there. Other comments that anybody wants to make? Ms. Boyer?
I wholeheartedly endorse what you and Mr. Breen have said. I have heard many, many positive things about Pointer and Sproul, especially Mr. Ellis. And it is really nice to have someone with the Wilson County connection. But more importantly, she said they would, their billing would be at 1/10 of an hour, and gave the example that a call to them would cost $17, whereas at the existing firm it would be $47. And that was part of their way to make them marketable to government entities, school, education, because they understand that we are spending tax money and we need to be frugal with it. When I looked at the list of the open cases, I only saw Mr. Schwartz's name alone on what, 3, I think?
3.
And so that lets me know that if we want to keep our cases with the people that know them, then we need to follow the attorneys to point.
Okay. Are there other comments?
My comment would be, it sounds to be more cost effective to go with the new law firm or Pointer and Sproul. I just don't like the idea of not having more information about the firm other than what we were given today in advance of making a decision. But my decision would be to go with whomever is more cost effective and to follow Calais, with the firm endorsing those people that we already are familiar with.
Mr. Mercer or Mr. Boykin?
Madam Chair, I don't disagree with the thing that's been said. I've consider Richard Schwartz a friend, and I've had a lot of faith in him, and that's not changing, but when you can't show it with the chief and no Indians, I mean, he's got, by his own words, even if we said, let's stay there, he would have to farm it out. And I doubt he'd be able to farm it out to the people we've been working with and have learned to trust and have faith in. So I don't enjoy it, to be honest with you, but I do think it's the right thing to do.
I have another question.
Yes.
Madam Chair, when we do a separate retainer agreement, if we choose to go with Pointer and Sproul, what would that entail, I guess, is the word?
It's gonna entail the same figures that we had with Schwartz and Shaw. That is what Ms.
Well,
Cornell
now,
said.
let me,
You know, she said,
Oh.
$170 an hour is the current rate, and a quarter hour structure versus,
1/10 of an hour.
1/10 of an hour versus a quarter of an hour.
well,
Mr. Dr. Mills?
If the board decides to go with Pointer Sproul, then I've prepared a sheet to look at our fees over the last 6, 7 years.
Okay.
But what I would suggest is, before signing on, is I would like for us to talk to whomever about a fixed rate each month so that we can budget for our legal services. We're paying a retainer now, and then we pay an hourly rate over. The retainer covers for meetings and then about 4 half days of PD. And that's fine, but from a district standpoint, the one area that we have a hard time controlling any budget is anything you don't know what it may go up or down. In litigation, we know that can affect us, and every other aspect of our budget is varying right now on COVID. It's just all over the place. But in districts that have looked at a fixed amount per month that you know you're not to exceed, as much as we talked about recently, I think there's a way to do that, and I think they'll be amenable to doing that, and now will be the time to do it, because they're trying to add on clients. We will be one of the first ones. We know them, they know us, and I think a case can be made for a very low monthly fee that would serve them give them steady work, give us steady support, and not be exorbitant for taxpayer money, but give us the support we need and avoid us having to worry about making a call or doing those things that precipitate us looking at, do we have somebody inside, which also would cost about the same amount of money. But if y'all would allow me, I'll show you kind of what I looked at. But I don't want to get in the middle of your discussion, because your discussion is good, but I really think we could do a good job with that right now, and now would be the time to do it. But I think from a district standpoint of the next 5-10 years, I think that's where you're going to have to be, because you can't control the cost of that, and we're going to be really tight over the next 5 to 7 years with positions and other things coming up. And if that's one aspect of your budget, you could anticipate and go ahead and mark that off like you do at home with your checkbook. I'm not touching that once I pay this. And these are things you have to have. I'd feel a whole lot better. So that would be my suggestion, and since that's the way you're going, as we go back and forth and talk, that might be a time to ask that versus, I do think the 10th is better. You know, y'all know the numbers better than anybody's attorney on the board, but I think there's an even better way to do this so it's very predictable and it wouldn't cause the chagrin sometimes of getting a bill and you go, why is this case? Why is this case? It would take a lot of the emotion out of it. That would be my suggestion. And again, I think it'd be, if we could do what I think we can do, we could go back beyond the lowest year we had, which was in 2016. I mean, this would be very reasonable.
Okay.
But I would just offer that after your discussion.
Now, I'm hearing, I didn't hear yet from Mr. Boykin in terms of your interest in going with the talent, not going with the talent, staying where we are. What is your general feeling at this point, and Mrs. Powell as well?
I think that right now, you know, Pointer and Sproul is where we probably need to move our existing cases to, which is, I think, what they're asking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that we're gonna, doing that, I think we're gonna have to cross the bridge of coming up with another retainer shortly thereafter, or a new contract. And I think that we need to be cautious when we do it, because this is a brand new department in this firm, and if the talent decides to leave again, then this firm probably is not going to dissolve. So,
Well, and I heard you a few minutes ago saying you want a year, but I think that a year from November 1, you want it to run November 1 to the next November, or are you interested in it running from this November 2021 to June 30th, the end of the fiscal year, and then start another, or what is?
no, it
are
would
you
be
looking-
year over year.
So
So
since
full
we're
12
changing,
months.
looking to change in the middle of this stream of a year, the contract would run November 1,
To November
21
1.
to November 1, 2022.
Yes, and I feel like that would give us the flexibility that if anything were to change furthermore, then, you know, we can reassess at that point. Not saying that it would, but if it did, you know, you don't want to be in a firm that doesn't have attorneys that are trained in education law.
Well, I think we would be at the same crossroads that we are right now in having to make that decision.
But that firm wouldn't dissolve.
Well,
Like the
No, but
current
that,
one is.
but that education component, if what you're saying were to occur, that whole component, which is the only part we're interested in with that law firm, we would be back at square one.
But it wouldn't dissolve our retainer.
Contract with them.
We would
If
still
they
have
don't-
a contract even if they didn't have the department, and they could fill in with other attorneys.
No, that would not be in our contract, because we don't want the municipality lawyers or the other lawyers. What we are doing with them is strictly education. So if the parties choose to not stay with Pointer Sproul, in that next year, we're gonna be at the same crossroads, because we're hiring that component of Pointer School.
And it would be unethical of them to try to keep us there. But so Pointer Sproul is a lot like Tharrington Smith, and I feel like I'm just saying names of folks, but that's another big law firm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what they do is, just like Pointer and Sproul, they
Right,
find
right.
each and every avenue and crevice they can find to try to be profitable. And looking at what we have budgeted for this year, school boards are a profitable, untouched, or relatively untouched sector that a lot of smaller firms aren't specializing in. So I think that if they're willing to take the leap to start a new section, I think they're gonna ride this for a while.
I would offer as an outsider too, having been in multiple districts, these folks tend to stay in one place a long time, so when they do their homework, they're typically not gonna jump around between firms. They don't like those transition either. These are not the people that I see moving between firms a lot too, but I see your point, Mr. Boykin, too, as well. But I think they've all been through a lot to get to this point. I don't think anybody wants any more transitions.
Well, Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I have no problem, generally speaking, with two-year agreements with reviews in between to make sure we have an avenue of changing if things aren't going well. But in this case, I think we should not go more than a year with somebody, new change, it's not new people we're working with, because we have the same people. But to make sure it works, and then a year from now, or a year from June, whichever the group prefers, then make a decision about extending it. It gives us an opportunity to for everybody, see how their effort is gonna work and see how it works for us. But also, since it's a new venture for them, is there any room for negotiating a better hourly fee?
And I think there's a time for that later. And I agree with you, and that's something that we should do, but we've got to make the threshold call
Yeah.
today.
Madam Chair?
Mrs. Powell,
Yes, I'm sorry, I hear dogs in the background.
I hear the dogs in the rustling paper, but you're good.
I'm sorry, everything's right here. I would like to make a few comments. It does sadden my heart that Schwartz and Shaw found it necessary to separate or go their separate ways, which causes us to have to be in the place where we are now. And I have no ill will toward anyone on that firm, just best wishes to everyone. But I do agree with a lot that has been said, probably majority that has been said, that I think staying with Pointer School would probably be in our best interest, because, we have the attorneys, Netta, Hitch, that's been, familiar with our cases. And I think it would be in our best interest to continue that. And also to, as I said earlier, I heard earlier about maybe, since it is a new firm, maybe having a year contract to actually give it a try, just to see how it works out, versus having 2 or 3 years, just to be on the safe side and to look out for our best interest. And also to have, like Dr. O'Neill was talking about, maybe a fixed amount, fixed rate, because this is now a chance for us to actually go in that direction, since this is probably starting something new, to actually look into that. And also, I like the fact too that the attorneys are in Rocky Mount, that where it's based, as I asked earlier.
Yes,
To be
ma'am.
closer to us, to be able to get closer, to 30 minutes is, Rocky Mount's 30 minutes away, versus coming in from Raleigh with all that traffic, and I do appreciate that they did that. And also with the, I heard that the amount that we'll be charging will be less, if I heard that correctly, from that firm. So I like everything I'm hearing on this side, without my earbuds, sounds very promising for us. Because sometimes change is the time for us to make some changes to some things that we're concerned about, and there have been concerns about, the firm and about the attorney, so that door opens up by itself. But I think that it's probably, best for us to stick with the attorneys that are familiar with our cases on education, and even though they did not have, well, she said yes, she said that they did have cases of people there that were familiar with the education aspect of it, so we'll still be in good hands either way, but just knowing that there are some attorneys there that have been handling our cases, and I viewed the list of all the cases, and it was quite a few there, but I think we will be better off doing that. I think that's most majority of things that I've heard. If I have missed anything, I do owe it to my head right now, and not my heart.
You're good, you're good. I think you have heard the relevant points and you have digested those well, so that's not a problem, Ms. Powell.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Boyette?
Question, I agree, let's go to point of approval, yes, let's do it a year. Help me understand when we are ready to renegotiate to get our better price. When does that outcome?
I think before we, if we want to go with Pointer's Rule, then we need to talk to them about doing a fixed rate. Are they amenable to doing that? And then looking at what a monthly fee could be. And I've got some numbers if we pass these out, but I think we could, we may want to let them say yes or no to that, but I think we could set our number back to levels well below what we've been paying on an annual basis. And they're going to provide the same service with the same staff that we've seen all but one. And then we're not worried about, again, number of phone calls. I think we're in the driver's seat to have that conversation now. And I think we're out nothing to have it because they're trying to establish practice. I mean, I think it's one of those things where you can be the famous ball coach that comes in and you're paid an obscene amount of money, but you better win the championship next year, or you come in and you have time to build a program and establish roots and do that over time. And this is one of those things where they would be able to establish a practice, we would be able to have the same legal counsel and solid legal counsel over time, and no one's taking advantage of the other in that sense. And I think we should ask for a number that's reasonable and fair based on what our numbers have been over the last 6-7 years, but really go down below that because I think they were creeping up, and I think we should start low and see.
And what happens if they are not willing to go below the current rate of $170 an hour?
No,
You're talking about.
I'm not even talking about it.
You're not talking about.
I'm not talking about an hourly rate. I think this is a flat rate per month.
Okay.
Not to exceed, and I think that's
Okay.
even better. Because, I mean, even then I can't predict what our bills are going to be depending on what the issues are, even with anything else. I mean, and I would defer to other people that know more than me about it, but I think at this point you don't have to do anything until November 1st. But if the board says this is the firm we want to go with and that's a negotiation piece, then I would want to know from y'all who's going to speak to them and on what purpose do we want to do it. But I would be wanting to ask them, hey, you're interested in doing a fixed rate with a board? I know boards have done that and saved a lot of money.
Okay.
And it's not so much saving the money and getting service, so both ways. But I can show you the sheet that I'm doing just to play around, but I would come in even lower than what I think our best 3 years were.
So help me understand, please. Are you saying stay at the 170 fixed rate and negotiate a monthly flat rate?
Can I yeah, whatever rate they want to put, but if we do this, you won't need the hourly rate.
Okay.
Can I just show you what I got and it's just scratching anyway? So all I did was, and there's extras if y'all want some.
Is this January to December
I don't know, it's whatever, Art pulled it for me, I'll have to check.
or, okay.
Ms. Horson, can you share this sheet with Mrs. Powell?
Might not have everything on it because I did it last minute, so I'll send it to her. But the main chart, the main column with the green headings is she can share with Ms. Powell. But what I did was took our costs over from ARC over the last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then current year's is not far enough in it. But if you notice, the current year is almost half of what we paid for the full year in 2016. So that's a lot of creep starting fast. And 17 must have been a litigation or something to really stand out. So what I did was to try and, like the 6 years, just if we took out everything but the partial year, and that's what it would be per month at the bottom. And then I went to the 5 and said, well, what if we took out the highest one that's obviously inflated for some reason, and then the partial year, that's what it would be per month. And then 4, I said, let's throw out the 2 highest, and then the partial. And the last one, based on 3, is these seem to be the most reasonable estimates for a school system our size, with real numbers, not knowing why it is or is not in there. And that's how much it'd be per month.
Okay.
And what I would offer is, I would probably come in a little bit under that to start with, and because we're starting out, we want to see how things go. But that's an easy amount to predict in my budget for the school system to know what we're paying. Plus, it's well down close to where we were 6, 7 years ago, and is reasonable to anybody on the outside looking, thinking of an entity our size and the issues we deal with. And this would include everything in the kitchen sink of personnel, contracts, litigation even, I mean, and phone calls. I mean, I'm gonna pay that amount.
You think litigation would be covered under that?
I don't
as
know.
well?
I mean,
Possibly.
it's not gonna hurt us to ask, but this allows me to know what my bills are gonna be in advance, and I can plan a budget around it. That's what I can't do when you see this column over here, and it's random. And one thing could, and again, we're reaching a point where even when we go to the conferences, the law conferences and all, and we're pretty comfortable with most of the things we hear. The stuff we're dealing with now has never happened before. We're always having to call and ask something. It's very complicated. You bounce things off people, but at the same time, you got to make the right call the first time. But I think this creep over here is troubling. If you look again, 2022 versus 2016, and we're in first week of October.
Mhm.
Now there's been a few things in there we know about, but still, that's huge, and that's not sustainable. I mean, and when I look at these numbers, I think that's a position, that's a teaching position, that's a teaching position, that's one more teacher. And frankly, that's why we're going to have to look at things, because we're getting hammered. So, I don't know how you want to approach that or what, but your first decision is who, and then you got time, and if that's okay, then I would be glad to talk to them and say, are you amenable to that? And if so, if I have your permission, I'll start down here below the 3 and see what they say and see what they can work out. But that would be a win for our students and our system, I think.
Okay. Ms. Barnes?
I was ready to make a motion.
Okay, let's hold off for a minute and let's, are there any comments that, or questions in regard to what Dr. Mills has just presented?
I think it's a good thing,
Okay.
and something we should pursue.
Okay, so, go ahead. I'm sorry, Mr. Borkin.
I really like this.
It would be helpful.
And just because we move our files does not mean that we're locked in with anybody
No.
until we sign a contract.
No.
So I mean, we have options.
Okay,
I mean, we're a healthy customer, we're a solid customer, we pay our bills. And, and we're good to work with.
okay.
I mean, so why not? We do it with everything else.
So, is the board agreeable to move with Pointer Spruill, but to ask that some negotiation of cost be handled as suggested?
I think that it's gonna come.
Yeah,
to
I mean, I don't think we have to ask, I think it's gonna come.
Yeah.
I think it will.
Okay.
And doesn't item 2 on this sheet, doesn't that cover it, because it says with the
Yes.
understanding that a separate
Retainer agreement,
Agreement.
yes, will need to be reached, yes,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So, any other questions or comments? Mrs. Powell, do you have anything else to add? You're muted. Okay,
No, nothing else to add at this moment.
okay, thank you. Mr. Borkin, would you slide your chair back and open the, are we ready to have them come back in?
Sure.
Would you open the door and ask them if they could return?
This is like The Bachelor.
What'd you say?
So
That's
this is
sad.
like The Bachelor.
You're a sad man. I can't imagine you even admitting to
Oh,
that.
they may
Right.
be sitting in Mrs. In Mrs. Horace's, area outside her office.
Emerson
Thank
watches
you.
Love Island. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Yes.
We're ready for this.
Oh, God. The Bachelor, now that. No more for you.
Come on, everybody likes Jock Jams.
What are you doing?
Who?
Everybody likes Jock Jams. It's a solid CD. I'm
Yeah,
on
what-
public record saying that. Make sure it's in the minutes.
It was a deep cut.
Yeah.
Mr. Schwartz, Ms. Cornetta, thank you all for allowing us to have some time for discussion in regard to the issue before us. We have had vigorous discussion, and so the chair will entertain a motion at this time if you are ready to present a motion, members of the board. First, okay, we need to do two things. We need to authorize to go forward, or we need to handle the representation of this first, and then ask, because in closed session, we asked about moving forward with the Wilson County School lawsuits.
I don't think we have to do that in open session. I think we can just vote on this matter.
Okay, all right.
Ms. Barnes, did you want to make this motion? Okay. Madam Chair,
Mr. Breen,
I move that all the matters on attached Exhibit A in the exhibit that was in the letter that was handed to us should be handled by Pointer Spruill LLP, and transfer all current files and client property to Pointer Spruill LLP, with the understanding that a separate retainer agreement will need to be reached with Pointer Spruill LLP.
it has been moved by Mr. Breen, seconded by Mrs. Boyette, that all the matters on the attached exhibit that were presented to us with the letter attached be handled by Pointer Spruill LLP, and with that all transfer all current files and client property to Pointer Spruill LLP, with the understanding that a separate retainer agreement will need to be reached with Pointer Spruill LLP. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please respond to the motion. Mrs. Boyette,
Madam Chair, for clarification, is that effective November 1?
is that effective November 1, sir? Maker of the motion.
When does it need to be effective
It
by?
will need to be effective October 15th because of the authorization to move forward with your lawsuits.
Okay.
Effective October 15th of 2021.
Is the second of the motion, okay, so that the motion still stands with the addition of effective October 15th, 2021. Mrs. Boyette? Mr. Boykin? Mr. Breen?
Aye.
Mr. Mercer?
Aye.
Mrs. Powell?
Aye.
Mrs. Barnes? Myself, Dr. Fitch, aye. Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. And what do I have to do in terms of what we did? We're authorizing,
Check the box,
You'll
sign the
just
paper.
check the
They
box,
check
and
it.
Check
then
the
the
box.
board chair will sign and date, and
Okay.
then I'll take that back.
All right, is there anything else to come before us? Let me say, thank you, Mr. Schwartz, for, your service throughout the years. We appreciate it. Ms. Cornetta, thank you so much as well. And, the chair will now entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, if I may, for the personal privilege,
Yes, sir, you may.
it has been an honor to work with you and your school system, and you as board members and your predecessors for I think about 25 years, maybe longer. I've appreciated the personal and professional associations over the years, your school system means an awful lot to me. This is, for those of you who know me well, you know this is not, this is personal for me in terms of how deeply I care about my clients and the school system. And I appreciate each and every one of you. And I want to thank you for the opportunity and the privilege of having been your attorney for about the last 25 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we
Madam
wish
Chair.
you, we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And,
Thank you.
Yes, and in our discussion earlier, your honesty, I respect and appreciate quite a bit. And I too have enjoyed, and like I said, I felt safe. And thank you so much for that.
And thank you for the pies.
You, I've got your phone number.
love it. Is there, if there is nothing else, the chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Madam Chair, I move for adjournment.
Second.
It has been moved by Mr. Breen, seconded by Mr. Mercer, that we adjourn. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Boyette? Mr. Borkin? Mr. Breen?
Aye.
Mr. Mercer? Mrs. Powell?
Aye.
Mrs. Barnes? Myself? Dr. Fitch, aye. Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. We are now adjourned.